Welcome to another deep dive. This time around, we're tackling something I think we all could use a little more of. Sleep.
Yeah, sleep.
You sent over the power of sleep.
Right.
And honestly, I'm pretty excited to dive into this with you. I think we all know sleep is important,
Oh, definitely.
but I don't think we realize just how much it impacts our lives.
Yeah,
Like everything.
everything.
Physical health, how our brains work, even our moods.
Absolutely. It really is foundational.
So let's start with the basics. What is sleep? I mean, we know it's when we're unconscious,
Right.
but what's actually going on in our bodies and brains while we're out?
So when we sleep, we cycle through these two main types of sleep, NREM and REM.
Okay.
NREM stands for non-rapid eye movement. And it has a few different stages, going from light sleep to deeper and deeper. This is when your body's really focused on repair and restoration.
Got it.
Muscle growth, tissue repair. It's like a nightly tune-up.
So all bodies are getting a workout, even though we're sleeping. I like that. What about REM sleep then?
REM sleep, or rapid eye movement, is where things get really interesting. This is when we dream, and it plays a crucial role in memory, creativity, even how our brains adapt and change, which is what they call brain plasticity.
Wow, so even when we're totally out way, our brains are still hard at work. It makes you wonder, are there different types of memories being processed during these different sleep stages?
That is a great question, and you're absolutely right. Deep sleep is essential for consolidating like facts and information, that kind of stuff you study for a test. Whereas REM sleep is more important for processing emotions and those motor skills, like riding a bike. Although I don't suggest trying that in your sleep.
Makes sense. It's like our brains are sorting and filing all the day's events into different compartments while we sleep. How do we even cycle through these stages throughout the night?
Well, we cycle through those NREM and REM stages multiple times during the night, with each cycle lasting about 90 minutes. It's a pretty incredible system. And talking about cycles, that brings us to the master conductor of our sleep, which is our circadian rhythm. That's our internal 24-hour clock that regulates our sleep-wake cycle. It lets us know when it's time to be tired and when we should be alert.
Ah, yes, the circadian rhythm. It's like that feeling of jet lag when you travel and your body feels totally off.
Exactly. Light and darkness play a huge role in setting this clock. When it gets dark, our brains start producing melatonin.
Yeah, melatonin.
Which is the hormone that makes us sleepy. But when we're exposed to light, especially blue light from screens, it actually suppresses that melatonin production and makes us feel more awake.
So if our bodies are naturally programmed to get sleepy when it's dark, are we messing with that with all this artificial light and screen time? I mean, it makes you
Yeah.
wonder, right?
Absolutely. It's a really important point and something we'll definitely talk about when we get to strategies for getting better sleep. But for now, let's shift gears a little. We've talked about what sleep is, but let's dive into what it actually does for us.
I'm ready. It's so easy to take sleep for granted.
Right.
I'm curious about all the amazing things it's doing for us behind the scenes. Where do we even start?
Well, one of the most important things sleep does is boost our immune function. During deep sleep, our bodies release these proteins called cytokines, which help fight infections and inflammation.
So sleep is like a superhero training camp for our immune systems.
I love that. It really is. But here's the thing. When we don't get enough sleep, our cytokine production actually takes a hit. So our immune systems aren't as strong. And it's not just about feeling groggy. It makes us more vulnerable to getting sick. Colds, flu, even more serious infections.
Wow, I never realized that connection was so direct. Are there studies that show just how MUCH sleep deprivation weakens our immune systems?
There are. Some research has actually found that people who consistently sleep less than 7 hours a night are 3 times more likely to get sick with a cold compared to those who get enough. And it goes even beyond getting sick. Studies show that getting enough sleep before and after a vaccination can help your body produce more antibodies, which makes the vaccine even more effective.
That's incredible. So sleep's not just helping us fight off those bugs, it's helping us maximize our protection when we do go get vaccinated.
Yeah.
What else is on the list? I'm ready for more sleep superpowers.
All right, well, sleep is also a master regulator of our metabolism, which is key for maintaining a healthy weight. And it all comes down to those hormones that tell us when we're full and when we're hungry.
You mean those hormones that seem to have a mind of their own, especially around the holidays?
Exactly. And when we don't get enough sleep, it throws them completely off. When we're sleep deprived, it increases ghrelin, which is the hormone that stimulates appetite,
Okay.
and decreases leptin, the hormone that signals fullness. This imbalance can lead to overeating and, you guessed it, weight gain.
So it's not just about willpower then. It's our hormones working against us.
Exactly. And on top of that, lack of sleep also affects our insulin sensitivity, which is our body's ability to use insulin effectively to regulate blood sugar. When we're sleep deprived, our cells become less responsive to insulin, which puts us at greater risk for type 2 diabetes.
Okay, I'm seeing a pattern here. Sleep deprivation equals bad news for our health. We've covered the immune system, metabolism.
Mm.
What about our hearts? Does sleep affect those too?
Absolutely. Think of sleep as a mini vacation for your cardiovascular system. It helps lower your blood pressure and heart rate, and it reduces those stress hormones that can really wreak havoc on your heart in the long run.
Makes sense. Our days are so full of stress, sleep is like a reset for our hearts.
Exactly, like giving your heart a much needed break.
I'm feeling relaxed just thinking about it. We can't forget the powerhouse, the brain. We've touched on memory. But what else does sleep do for how our brain works?
Well, sleep is absolutely essential for memory consolidation, which is that process of turning short-term memories into long-term ones. Different sleep stages affect different types of memory, like we talked about. Deep sleep is crucial for consolidating facts and information, while REM sleep helps us process emotions and those procedural memories, like learning a new skill.
I always feel like I can't remember anything after pulling an all-nighter. It's like my brain never got the memo to store those memories.
Exactly. And beyond just memory, sleep plays a vital role in actually cleaning up our brains. During deep sleep, this system, called the glymphatic system, kicks into gear,
Okay.
clearing out waste products that build up in the brain throughout the day. It's like a nightly brain detox.
Okay, I'm officially in awe of sleep now. Tell me more about this brain detox. What kind of waste products are we talking about? And what happens if they don't get cleared out?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. One of the key waste products cleared out during this process is this protein called beta amyloid, and it's known to build up in the brains of people with Alzheimer's disease.
So there's a link between sleep quality and Alzheimer's.
That's right, it's a growing area of research, but some studies show that people who consistently get poor sleep have a higher risk of developing Alzheimer's later in life. The thinking is that when we don't get enough deep sleep, that glymphatic system doesn't work as well, so that beta amyloid can build up.
Okay, that is a compelling reason to make sleep a priority. It's not just about feeling good the next day, it's about protecting our brains for the long haul. Sleep isn't just about physical health, though, right? What about our mood, our mental and emotional state? How does sleep affect all of that?
Sleep and mental health, they're very deeply intertwined. Sleep deprivation can actually worsen symptoms of anxiety and depression. Getting enough sleep can actually help us regulate our emotions and cope with stress better.
So it's like a two-way street then.
Exactly.
Poor sleep makes us feel worse mentally and emotionally. And D, when we're struggling mentally and emotionally, it's harder to get a good night's sleep.
Exactly. And REM sleep, that dream stage, seems to be really important for processing emotions. It's like our brains are working through our experiences and emotions while we sleep, and that helps us wake up feeling more balanced and resilient.
I definitely noticed that I'm way more cranky and easily frustrated when I haven't slept well. It's like my fuse is so short.
Yeah.
Are there actually studies that show how sleep deprivation affects our emotions?
There are. One study looked at brain activity in sleep-deprived people, and they found that the amygdala, the part of the brain that processes emotions, was way more reactive to negative stimuli when those people were sleep-deprived. It's like our brains are on high alert when we're tired, which makes us more sensitive to negative emotions.
That makes a lot of sense. So we've uncovered all these amazing things that sleep does for us, from boosting our immune systems to regulating our moods and protecting our brains. What happens when we just don't get enough? What's the price we pay for skimping on sleep?
That's a great question, and one we should definitely explore more. Let's dive into the consequences of not getting enough sleep, what's often called sleep debt, in the next part of our deep dive. It's a topic that deserves its own conversation.
Okay, sleep debt. What does that even mean?
Well, it's basically the amount of sleep we've missed out on over time, like a sleep deficit that keeps adding up if we don't consistently get the sleep we need.
So not just one bad night here and there, but like a chronic pattern of not getting enough.
Exactly. And the effects of that sleep debt, you can feel them in the short term and the long term. Let's start with those immediate, more relatable ones, the things you feel the very next day after a bad night.
Oh, I know those all too well. The daytime fatigue is just brutal. I feel like I'm dragging, my brain's running on fumes. It's hard to even think straight, definitely not making my best decisions.
You're right on the money. Impaired judgment and decision-making, those are major signs of not getting enough sleep. Studies show even just one night of sleep deprivation can mess with our cognitive function. We're less alert, more distractible, slower to react. And that's not just feeling foggy-headed, that can have real consequences.
That's a bit scary to think about. Like, what kind of real-world consequences are we talking about?
Think about driving drowsy. It's so dangerous. It can have the same effects on your reaction time and coordination as if you were driving under the influence, or even just making important decisions at work when you're exhausted. You might make mistakes, miss details, have trouble focusing on those complex tasks.
Right. It's like our brains just aren't working at full capacity. And I know I'm way more irritable, moodier when I haven't slept well. Is that a common thing?
Oh, absolutely. Mood changes, they're a big consequence of sleep deprivation. We're more likely to feel irritable, frustrated, short-tempered when we're running on empty. And it's not just about feeling grumpy, it can affect our relationships, how we interact with others.
Like everyone around me knows to tiptoe because I'm ready to snap. So those are the short-term effects, the fatigue, the foggy brain, the moodiness. But what about the long-term consequences of consistently not getting enough sleep? That's what really worries me.
That's where things get a bit more serious. Chronic sleep deprivation is linked to a whole host of health problems like obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, even some types of cancer.
Right. We talked about how sleep affects our metabolism and hormones, so it makes sense that it could impact our weight, increase our risk for those metabolic disorders. What about the heart disease connection? How does sleep deprivation affect that?
Well, when you're chronically sleep deprived, it puts a lot of stress on your cardiovascular system, leads to elevated blood pressure, higher heart rate, increases inflammation in the body, even makes your blood more likely to clot. All those things increase your risk of developing heart disease over time.
So it's not just feeling tired. It's about the wear and tear on our hearts. Are there studies that actually show how MUHC sleep deprivation increases our risk of heart problems?
There are. One huge study followed people for over 14 years and found that people who slept less than 6 hours a night consistently had a much higher risk of heart failure compared to those who got 7 to 8 hours.
Wow. Okay. That's a serious wake-up call. We've got to make sleep a priority. But we also talked about how sleep affects our brains. What are the long-term consequences for our cognitive health?
That's an area that researchers are really focused on these days.
Oh, yeah.
Chronic sleep deprivation has been linked to an increased risk of cognitive decline, problems with memory, attention, processing information. And as we talked about, there's also that potential link with Alzheimer's disease.
You mentioned the glymphatic system, the brain cleaning system, not working as well when we're chronically sleep deprived. Is there more research to support that Alzheimer's connection?
Yeah, there are some really interesting studies using brain imaging that have shown people with Alzheimer's often have disruptions in their sleep patterns, especially in those deep sleep stages. And more evidence is suggesting that improving sleep quality could maybe even slow down the progression of the disease.
So, could not getting enough sleep actually contribute to the buildup of those harmful proteins in the brain?
It is a real possibility. It really underscores why we have to make sleep a priority for our long-term brain health.
All right, message received. Sleep is non-negotiable. We can't just power through on caffeine and willpower without paying the price down the line. Honestly, all of this is making me feel a little overwhelmed. I kind of want to crawl into bed and hibernate for a month.
Yeah.
But seriously, what can we actually do about it? Is there any hope for people who struggle with sleep?
Absolutely. There is so much we can do to improve our sleep quality. And that's what we'll talk about in the next part of our deep dive. We'll discuss practical strategies for really optimizing those precious sleeping hours, from creating a sleep-conducive environment to managing stress and building healthy sleep habits.
All right, we've talked about what sleep is, why it matters,
Right.
and the consequences of not getting enough. Now, I need the how-to.
Yeah, the how-to.
We know it's vital, but how do we actually get better sleep in our busy, always connected world? What are the secrets?
I wish I had a magic potion.
Right.
But what I do have are some strategies that actually make a difference.
Okay.
And it all starts with something called sleep hygiene.
Sleep hygiene. Sounds a little bit like, washing your sheets,
Right.
which I do
Nope.
regularly. But I'm guessing it's a little more involved than that.
Yeah. It's about creating that environment, a routine that really promotes good, restful sleep. Like setting the stage for a great night's sleep.
Like a sleep sanctuary.
I love that. A sleep
What
sanctuary.
are the key elements to creating that sleep sanctuary?
Well, consistency is key. Try to go to bed and wake up around the same time each day,
Okay.
even on weekends. This helps regulate your body's natural sleep-wake cycle, that circadian rhythm we were talking about earlier.
Right, right. So give your body a clear schedule. It knows what to expect.
Exactly. And really pay attention to your sleep environment. Make sure your bedroom is cool, dark, and quiet.
Okay.
Think like a cave. A cool room actually helps you fall asleep because our body temperature naturally drops as we drift off.
Oh, that makes sense. So no night owls in the sleep cave,
Yeah.
and I've definitely noticed that I sleep better when it's cooler. What about light? How dark are we talking?
Ideally, eliminate as much light as possible. Blackout curtains or a sleep mask if you're sensitive to light. Even little bits of light can disrupt that melatonin production.
Right, right. It's tricking our brains into thinking it's daytime.
Mm.
I've been trying to be better about putting my phone away like an hour before bed, but it's so easy to just get sucked into scrolling through social media. Is that blue light from screens really that bad for our sleep?
It can be, yeah.
Hmm.
Blue light is really powerful when it comes to suppressing melatonin production, like hitting the snooze button on your body's natural sleep signals.
Ugh, I'm definitely guilty of that one. But I'm trying to break the habit. What about winding down before bed? You mentioned a routine. What kind of things can help signal to our bodies, okay, it's time to sleep now?
Think about things that help you relax and disconnect from the stress of the day. Maybe a warm bath, reading a book, listening to some calming music, gentle stretches, anything that helps you transition out of go mode and into sleep mode.
It's like creating a ritual to de-stress and prepare for good sleep. I do love a good hot bath before bed. It definitely makes me sleepy. Any other tips for winding down?
It's not always just external factors. Sometimes it's about those racing thoughts that keep us awake. Stress is a big sleep saboteur.
Hmm.
When our minds are just going a mile a minute, it's hard to switch off.
Yeah, that is so relatable. When I'm stressed or anxious, my brain just won't shut off. I lie in bed for hours just replaying the day or worrying about things I can't control.
Yeah.
What can you do about that pre-sleep anxiety?
Mindfulness and relaxation techniques can be really helpful for that. Things like meditation, deep breathing exercises, progressive muscle relaxation. These can really help calm your nervous system and prepare you for sleep.
I've heard about those, but I've always been a little intimidated to try them. What about someone who's totally new to meditation or mindfulness?
Well, there are tons of great apps and online resources now. Guided meditations, mindfulness exercises. Start small, just a few minutes a day. Increase the time gradually as you get comfortable. Even just focusing on your breath for a few minutes can do
Oh,
wonders.
yeah, just finding what works for you, right? Not feeling like you have to become a Zen master overnight. What about journaling? I've heard that can be helpful for getting those thoughts out before bed.
Absolutely. Journaling can be a great outlet. Just dump all those anxieties onto paper. They're not swirling around in your head anymore. You can write about anything: worries, to-do lists, things you're grateful for. Just get it out of your head.
It's like giving your worries a time and place so they don't take over sleep time. I like that. We've covered a lot of ground here. Sleep hygiene, stress management, creating that sleep sanctuary. What if you do all of this and you're still struggling?
If you've got those chronic sleep problems, it's always a good idea to talk to your doctor and rule out any underlying medical conditions. Things like sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome, hormonal imbalances, these can all interfere with sleep. So if you've tried the lifestyle changes, you're still not sleeping well, see a healthcare professional.
That's good advice. Sometimes we need that extra help to get to the root of the problem. There's no shame in asking for help when it comes to our health.
Exactly. Sleep is so essential, it's worth taking the time to address anything that might be preventing you from getting that good night's sleep you deserve.
I feel like I've learned so much today. The power of sleep, the consequences of not getting it, and most importantly, how to actually improve my sleep habits. I'm armed and ready.
Great. And remember, even small changes can make a big difference. Pick one or two strategies, work them into your routine. You might be surprised at how much better you feel.
That's encouraging. Progress, not perfection. So, to our listeners out there, now that you know how vital sleep is, what one change will you commit to making to improve your sleep? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, we'd love to hear what resonates with you.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of sleep. We hope you learned something new and feel inspired to really prioritize sleep in your life. Sleep well, everyone.